This is the Out of Time Film Podcast, where your hosts Tom and John discuss everything from blockbuster films to TV and games like there's no tomorrow.
Hello and welcome to the Out of Time Film Podcast. My name is Tom and as always I'm joined with my co-host John.
Hello.
And this week
Hi.
we are talking about Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, the final DCEU film.
Yeah.
Immediate depression. It's been a rough year for DC, hasn't it?
Yeah, and it's been, 10 years down this road with DCEU, and I'm just processing everything, what happened about this year with DC. And here we are. Yeah, this is the last DCEU film. So this year we had The Flash, Shazam, and this one as well. So
Blue Beetle as well.
Oh, Blue Beetle. Yeah, actually, that was a banger. I forgot about that one. So this year we had 4 DC projects this year. It's been such a strange road.
I think I could pretty confidently say this is the last time we're going to see Aquaman on the big screen for
Yes.
quite a few years. I mean, it's really depressing that this has to be the film that ends it all. It wasn't very good, was it?
It was not very good. So, as we talked about Aquaman a few episodes ago, we really liked it. It was a strong movie with really cool action sequences. The story was cool, and that was 5 years ago since we saw Aquaman on the big screen, and now he's back in the last movie.
Yeah, I mean, I had nothing but good things to say about the first Aquaman. You guys can listen to our episode on that if you're interested. But yeah, one last time, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Full spoilers ahead for anyone who hasn't seen it. Briefly explain the plot for those who don't know.
After failing to defeat Aquaman the first time, Black Manta wields the power of the mythic Black Trident to unleash an ancient and malevolent force. Hoping to end his reign of terror, Aquaman forges an unlikely alliance with his brother, Orm, to form a king of Atlantis. Setting aside their differences, they join forces to protect their kingdom and save the world from irreversible destruction.
Okay, so that's the Lost Kingdom. That's what we're tackling here.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
Should we just get to the positive first about this film?
Go for it.
Because I feel like there isn't a lot to say about the positives about this film. But there's one thing that I really liked about the film was that we got to see more of the chemistry between Jason Momoa and Patrick Wilson's characters.
Yeah.
From the last film, I thought it was really interesting to explore more of their brother relationship to each other, about being king of Atlantis and, how Aquaman's feeling, or what Orm thinks of the surface world. And I thought that was just really nice to see, because typically, when protagonist works with the antagonist, the chemistry isn't always right. It's just all over the place. And with this film, I thought it was just well balanced between, the chemistry between Jason and Patrick. And I gotta say, Patrick Wilson, he was just great in this one as well, and Jason as well. And I thought this was the strongest part of the film. I gotta say, Tofu the Squid was also the best part of the film. I thought he was a force of nature in this performance, saving characters. And okay, I'm not being serious anyway. Finally, I do want to say that there were some cool fight sequences, especially the fight between Aquaman and Black Manta at the end. And that's about it, really.
Yeah, I think it tries to take everything from the first film to the next level. It tries to dial everything up to 11. And I think, the first film, I had nothing but praise when it came to the cinematography and the action. And I think that largely it still looks really great and the action is still really cool. But I think it all tries a little bit too hard. I think it tries a little bit too much to top itself after the first film, when really we don't really need that. We just need more of that, not necessarily a better version of that, just a little bit more. I think particularly towards the end, it boils down to another CGI army smash. And in the first film, that was cool because it had significance to the characters and everything was building to this certain point where Arthur's arc and Orm's arc intersected. Whereas I feel like in this one, the CGI army is just kind of, it's an occupational hazard. It's something that feels like a checkbox for them to tick off. I agree with you about Orm. I've written some notes down here, and my first note is just Orm carries. And I think that it's
Yes,
so
I
true.
agree. Orm
This
carries this
film,
film.
this
Yeah.
film would have been so much less enjoyable if it wasn't for Orm, who is just so charming and so lovably hateable. Yeah, he's just got a really great presence. Patrick Wilson, he does a great villain in the first film, but here he kind of gives him this anti-hero edge, and I really liked him. It's just really fun to watch as he bickers with Arthur and learns a bit more about the surface world. It's very similar to what happens with Mira and Arthur in the first film, where they each come to
Yes.
appreciate the different parts of the planet. Arthur comes to appreciate the underwater, and Mira comes to appreciate the surface. I think you get a similar thing with Orm here. Like at the end, he tries his burger and all that. Like I really liked those aspects of it. They were really great. And I think the one big thing that I think doesn't come with a caveat, like every positive thing that I have about this film is like, oh, this was good, but no, the one thing that actually did just slap was Rupert Gregson Williams' score. As
Oh
soon as the
yeah.
film started, I was like, oh my God, they've obviously got Rupert Gregson Williams back. And they had. And it was just really, really great to hear him taking all of his music from the first film to the next level.
Mm.
And I love that score so much. And it's great to hear the Aquaman theme and all the villains' themes again. And that elevates so many of the emotional moments. If this was paired with just like a generic comic book film score, and there's so many of them, so many comic book films just slapped on with a generic, really underwhelming score, this film could have been so much less enjoyable. But I think the score really did do so much for those moments, for at the very least,
Mm.
because I could connect them back to the first film and be like, oh, there's a bit of emotional connection I have. Like that was just so great.
Yeah, I think, the score elevated some scenes, or the character presence on screen as well. I agree with a lot of that. So I need to listen to the score because Rupert Gregson Williams does a lot of bangers. I haven't listened to him for a while, so I should do that. Now, I think we should go to the cons because I have a lot to say about the cons. First thing is the confusing plot points. Let me break down what I said earlier for the brief synopsis. So, for this film, it really showed that this is Black Manta trying to get his revenge on Aquaman. He doesn't really do this in the film at all. I mean, he does try to kill Aquaman's father, but there was no consequences about that. So, Black Manta was just heavily focused on the Black Trident. And all the way throughout the film, he will just say, I am going to kill Aquaman's father, family. I'm going to take over everything that you loved. And he doesn't do that. I wish there was more potential for that because, again, in the first film, it was really well developed in the sense of like he lost his father due to Aquaman. I thought that was a proper villain that was building up. But this was just one dimensional. It was just like, okay, guys, I want to kill Aquaman, but first we gotta use the Black Trident and create this whole kingdom back. And by the way, it's called Aquaman and Lost Kingdom, and you don't get to hear about the kingdom until later on. You don't get any context, so like, oh, why is it called the Lost Kingdom? We don't know until an hour later into the film or 2 hours.
The
I mean, that's
Lost Kingdom plays barely any role in it. Like
exactly.
it's not like a compelling mystery that is built throughout. It's just like, oh, at the end they're like, oh, we found this kingdom. It's like, oh, cool, guys. I spoke about it in the Aquaman video, but it is great to have returning villains. And one of the things that I did appreciate was that you don't have to do all that legwork with establishing new villains, new relationships. That's already done for you. There's a lot of flashbacks in the film itself, and some of them work, some of them don't. It's very much like, I know that the whole audience isn't gonna remember everything, but as somebody who does, it felt a little bit pointless. The thing is that Manta, he's barely a character anymore.
Exactly.
He's
Yeah.
just a vessel for action and for this bigger ancient king, like the guy who's like, I'm trapped, help me, like which is really boring. Like there's
That
so
was
many
me in the
times.
cinema. That was me in the cinema. I'm trapped. Help me. I'm stuck. I
Help.
don't know where to go.
Yeah, well, I can think of so many villains who are just like pawns for greater threats, and that could sometimes work, but I don't think this is particularly engaging. And his plan, it's just too convoluted. You said it yourself. He wants to kill Aquaman. He wants to hurt Aquaman. All right, just do that then. Just attack him. Like, why do you have to get the cum or whatever it is and
I was
and
so
like
confused. I was
and
so confused when he said that, the oral calcum. I
the
was like,
orichalcum, like what do you mean?
wait, what? And they
What do you
kept
mean
saying
by
it
that?
throughout the film. They kept saying it throughout the film. I wanted to laugh so badly. I was like, why? Why would you call it
Oh, I
like
don't
that?
even know. They kept on saying it, and you got to appreciate it's got a similar tone to the first film. There's a lot of comedy, but there's a lot of characters who don't break a smile. Like I just know that obviously Willem Dafoe isn't in this film, but if he was in this film, he would have
Oh,
absolutely ate
yeah.
up those lines. He would have had a great time.
I
But
can hear
he
it in
doesn't.
his voice. I can hear it in his voice. He just says it like really
Manta's trying
slowly.
to get the orichalcum. Like, okay, 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 dude.
Oh my god,
We
that's
don't need all
amazing.
of that. Like, why does Manta need to do this? Why does he need to infect the surface world? People say like, oh, he's gone insane. Oh, the Black Trident is turning him mental, and it's like, okay, he was a compelling character before this. The trailers show that he's like going on this path of vengeance. That is exactly what like his baseline motivation is. And yet they really throw all that away for being like, oh, he's gone insane. He wants to bring back this undead army. And it's like, really, it would have been a much more compelling film if this was just him as like a one-man force destroying everything that Aquaman holds dear. The first Aquaman gets a lot of similarities to Black Panther. I think it's unfair comparisons, but I do think that there's something to be said about this could have definitely taken a leaf out of Black Panther's book with Killmonger, this one guy who comes in and kind of ruins everything all on his own. That's kind of what we needed from Manta. We don't need a team of scientists and a team of goons for us to fight. Manta himself is a good enough threat, and Yahya Abdul-Mateen II has a lot of presence, and he can really do a lot with that. The film doesn't really afford him anything. There's a moment at the end when he's about to fall down this chasm, and Arthur gives him his hand, and he's like, never, I'll never take your hand. And he lets go, and he kills himself. And it's like, okay, that's really compelling. But we don't really explore the fact that he is somebody who's so consumed by anger and revenge that he is at a position where he won't do that. We instead follow the he's gone insane, he's kidnapping babies route. It was just really boring to watch. Like,
Yeah,
there
it was
weren't,
so
he
boring.
didn't even put the baby in a microwave. Like, come on, like, there are ways to make this more interesting.
Oh my god, that whole reverse clip of that's crazy.
Best thing to come out of DC all year.
Yeah, he had a really strong presence, but as you said, he wasn't a character at all. And then speaking of like really confusing plot points, one of the things that was so confusing, this is like the first points that I had to get through. Basically, Black Manta and his whole group, they want to infiltrate this safe. They don't even talk about this safe at all. And that's where the orichalcum that's where it is, and they have to take it. And then the sirens go off, and Black Manta is stuck in this place. And Black Manta says, I need an extraction. And I thought, oh, okay, this is going to be like how they're going to escape and stuff. But no, the group used Black Manta's submarine to go and destroy Atlantis. And one of the first things that they said in the first things in the infiltration to extract the orichalcum was, do not make any confrontation at all. And they go ahead and destroy some parts of Atlantis, and they try to extract the orichalcum, but that was the most confusing bit ever. And then the scientist, don't get me started with the scientist. He said later on in the film, hey, I don't really want to see ice caps melt or sea life damaged. I just wanted to see Atlantis. But he destroyed some civilians' lives in Atlantis. He's like, he presses this button to destroy it, and he's, I don't understand it. This was like the most confusing part of the movie.
The film thinks that this scientist guy is like layered, and they're like, oh yeah, he's really interesting because he's conflicted because he only wants to see, but also he's
We
being
don't
held
see him
hostage, and
conflicted.
so he doesn't really
We
know.
don't
But
see
it's
him
like, yeah,
conflicted at
yeah,
all.
the
No.
whole time we just kind of see him as like being out to save himself and not really interested in anything other than his science. And his moral dilemma is, oh no, the baby. Oh, I can't let him kill a baby. And it's like, well, okay, that feels like much less of a moral like choice than other moments in the film, because who wouldn't be uncomfortable with the murder of a baby? The side characters in general, they just do nothing. They're either there for exposition or because they were in the first film. Like Nicole Kidman and Temuera Morrison, they're just there to do pep talks and deliver exposition, and that just feels super boring and just a huge waste. You've got a bigger role for Dolph Lundgren in this film, and again, like, he just does nothing. Mira is in this film. Amber Heard, it feels like a lot of it has cut her out. It feels like there are ways that the script has tried to find ways to not have her in the plot. But I think the film suffers because of that. I mean, however you feel about Amber Heard aside, Mira was a big character in the first film. She means something to Arthur. She means something to Orm. I don't think Mira and Orm even speak, even exchange looks in this film when they had a really big connection in the first film. And obviously that connection wasn't really explored in the first film, but it was there. They were betrothed. They were going to be married. There's even a moment where Black Manta says to Aquaman, he's
Oh
like,
my
"You
God,
stole his
no.
throne and his woman, Aquaman. Shame on you." And it's like, wow, okay, he went
Okay.
there, sure, fine.
Okay.
But those two characters, Mira and Orm, they don't even speak.
There was a lot of Deus Ex Machina scenes as well, with Mira just saving the day quickly, saving Aquaman's life or doing all of that. So that was very out of nowhere.
I just think that there's a lot in this film which is just surface level and just smashing your action figures together. The film really should have lent into those father themes, family themes. This film seems to be vaguely interested in the fact that Aquaman is a father now. Well, let's explore that, because what made the first film so good was that it had those family elements and those really strong ties brought it all together. Whereas this film, it's fairly fun. It goes by at a fairly brisk pace. It's shorter than the first movie, but it has no substance beneath it. It's very, very surface level.
Yeah, everything was two-dimensional. There was just nothing really exciting. Everything was just so predictable, the story. And there was some interesting concepts about like this toxic, how it's damaging the environment. Again, we're looking back at the first movie about the message about climate change, and especially in this one about like how factories are kind of poisoning the air, but also sea life as well. So I'm kind of glad that they went into that, but then again, it was just very predictable in terms of storytelling. Like, it was very formulaic. And one of the things that I was really struggling with was the pacing of the film. I just got really bored. There wasn't really anything that was exciting or building up. And one of the first things that came to my mind was like, why is Black Manta in the Arctic, or is it enough? I think it's in the Arctic or somewhere. That was the first things that I was just really confused. Like, why is he there?
Was he actively trying to find the Black Trident? I don't
That
think
was what I was
so.
asking. Yeah, I was like, does he know about the Black Trident?
How
The
would he
film
know
doesn't go
that?
there.
Like,
Yeah,
who told him that?
the comic book writers. No,
Jeff Johns came down and was like, "Listen, I have something to tell you, David.
he
Is his
knows
name
about
David?
this.
Black Manta? I think his name's David.
David Kane. David Kane, I
David
think.
Kin, that's right. It's weird because they started calling him David, and I was like, "Who's who's
Who's
the?"
David?
And then they're
Who's
like, "Oh yeah, it's
David?
Black Manta," and I was like, "Sorry, I don't think we learned his name in the first film. I think we literally just knew him as like pirate slash Black Manta, and it's like now it's like, yes, David, don't do this,
Yeah,
David," and
yes,
it's like,
David.
who?
Don't worry,
What?
guys. We've got a name for Black Manta.
Yeah,
It's
we're
David.
chummy with him now, apparently.
Yeah, we could have just found a way just to build some personal or emotional weight around him. Again, he was just a character. He was just nothing.
It's
He was
in
just
dire need of a conversation. And the thing that's interesting in this one is that Aquaman just left Black Manta's father to be killed by the sea with no mercy. He said, he literally says, "You ask the sea for mercy." Let's explore that. Let's explore the
yeah.
recklessness of Aquaman. Let's have a conversation between Aquaman and Black Manta. But they don't do that. They don't even bother doing that. It's all just about the action and the fight scenes. And that's cool. The action is fine. I think the CGI is very up and down in this one. But that's not what makes it interesting. That's not what makes the first film interesting. What makes the first film interesting with Arthur and Orm is that they have conversations, that they talk, that we know exactly where they stand. They actually do have a lot of similarities, and they could be friends. And that's what is, again, the best part about this film, is that they lead into that. Aquaman and Orm are constantly having conversations and constantly talking to each other.
Mm.
And that's what makes it interesting. That's why their bond eventually really works, is because they don't just only see each other in action scenes. They actually spend time with each other and talk. That is important.
It's basic storytelling. You are not going to understand the villain at all. And one of the things about this film was with the exposition and dialogue as well. I wish it just could have been a lot more better. And one of the things that I've just found really lazy about this film, apparently there's a disease that came from somewhere. And apparently this took the life of Aquaman's mentor, Nudis. Is that his name?
What? Nudist?
No, what's his name?
Vulco?
Volko. No, apparently, no. On Google, it
Nudist?
says new. I can't spell it. Please don't
Maybe his
put that
first
in.
name is Nudist. Maybe he doesn't wear any clothes. And then that just,
No,
they kind of like, they made a nickname for him. They were like, "Oh, you
no. Is it
nudist."
Nuidis? I think I said it wrong.
His name's Vulco.
It's Volko. It's Volko. But Google, I'll show
You mean you
I'll show
mean you mean Willem Dafoe, right?
Yeah, Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
his character.
Oh, right, okay. He's got a first name. That makes sense. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Nudis, I don't know.
reverse. So they take the life of Volko, and he just gets killed off screen, just like that.
Yeah, they
Uh,
clearly couldn't get Willem Dafoe back. That must have been what happened there.
I think he just had enough of like water films again, like
Yeah.
films with filled with water. I mean, like we had the Lighthouse, and then we had Aquaman.
He was probably filming like Poor Things or something like that. And
Yeah,
if that's the case, fair enough. Like,
yeah, fair enough. Because
because
yeah,
this
with
isn't
the
this isn't really worth anyone's time.
no,
Yeah, it really is a depressing end to the DCEU.
we went to something really good with like Man of Steel, and Man of Steel really had this strong vision for the DCEU and where it was going, and then it kind of just fell apart. Literally, it did. It fell apart with Justice League, and now it's just so weird what's happening. But now James Gunn is rebooting the DCU, so that's something to look forward to.
What a strange, like when you look at it as a whole, what a strange cinematic universe. And I want to say that I value it still. It might have ended badly and it might have had various bad films, but I don't think it is
Yes.
nearly as bad as a lot of people make it out to be. I think there are some absolutely fantastic films, and particularly in that middle section, kind of 2018 to 2021, some fantastic films that all were creator driven and really exercised filmmakers' abilities, and they weren't kind of bothered with building that universe. And yeah, I know that at points that was a bit too much of their priority, but I will always find value in DCEU, and I'm kind of sad that it's over. But yeah, this is a kind of depressing end. What are you gonna give Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom out of 10?
I'm gonna give this film a 4 out of 10.
Cool, yeah, I'm going 5. Thank you everybody for listening. If you enjoyed it and you're listening on YouTube, you can like and subscribe if you want to see more. And if you're listening on Spotify, you can follow and give us a 5-star review if you think we're worthy. Next week, we're going to be doing the best films of 2023, just like we do every year. We'll be
Oh,
giving our top 5. That's very exciting. And you can send us an email at outsignfilmpod@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts on the best films of the year and ask us any questions. We'll answer it right here on the podcast next week.
yes, I'm very excited about that. And you can follow us on Instagram at Out of Time Film Pod to see our incredible thumbnails from Zain Afzal, on Twitter for more thoughts from Tom, and TikTok to see edited clips, which are all also on Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts. And you can find links to that all in the description below. Thanks to James-Meyer for the excellent theme and Ronan Phillips for vocals as always. And I think that's everything. And what a year for movies as well for Aquaman
What a
and Lost.
year. Wow, what
Yes.
a year for Happy New Year, everyone. This
Yeah, happy
episode's
new year.
releasing on the 31st of December. I hope everyone has a great new year. Here's to
Yes.
2024. Let's hope
Yeah.
it's a good one. Who
Yeah,
knows?
yeah.
Who
And I'm
knows?
very excited to talk about the best films this year. I might have to reconsider. No, I'm kidding. I was like the top 5 about like Aquaman, but no. I'm
Put
very excited
Aquaman in the
about.
top 5. Aquaman is at my number 1. Spoilers.
Oh,
Spoilers,
oh my
folks.
god!
It's a masterpiece.
Take what you're given.
Give nothing back.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.